The arrival, the massive alien fleet, appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system without warning. Thousands of ships, each one larger than humanity's biggest space stations, moved in perfect formation toward the blue planet. Their dark hulls gleamed with strange energy patterns, and their weapons bristled with the promise of destruction. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the space station Aurora, watching the approaching armada through the main viewer. His officers moved quietly around him, their faces tense with worry. The alien ships were unlike anything in human records, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with their own life. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Blake, his voice barely steady. The main screen flickered, and a tall, gray-skinned alien appeared. Its large black eyes stared directly at the camera, and when it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical through the translation device. "Humans of Earth," the alien commander began. "I am War Chief Vex of the Dominion Fleet. Your species has been marked for conquest. We have destroyed 1,000 worlds before yours. You're primitive. Weapons cannot match our technology. Your scattered colonies will fall. Your home world will burn." The alien leaned forward, its expression showing what might have been amusement. "We give you 1 solar cycle to surrender completely. Kneel before the Dominion, and some of your kind may survive as slaves. Resist, and we will turn your planet into ash." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Admiral Stone looked around at his crew, seeing fear in their eyes. The alien fleet was enormous, easily 10 times larger than all of Earth's combined military forces. Their technology appeared decades ahead of human science. But then something unexpected happened. Admiral Stone began to smile. "Sir?" Lieutenant Blake asked, confused by his commander's reaction. "Send a message to Earth Command," Stone said calmly. "Tell them the Dominion fleet has arrived. Tell them it's time to activate Protocol 7. The lieutenant's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was something whispered about in the highest levels of military command. Most people thought it was just a myth, a story told to boost morale during the dark early days of space exploration. "Are you certain, sir?" Blake asked. Stone's smile grew wider. "Oh yes, very certain." "Also, send a reply to War Chief Vex. Tell him we appreciate his offer, but humanity must politely decline." Across the solar system, other human commanders were receiving similar messages. On Mars base, Colonel Davis read the transmission and started laughing. On the mining stations around Jupiter, Captain Reed merely shook his head and muttered, "They have no idea what they're getting into." Deep in the asteroid belt, the crew of the merchant vessel Prometheus received the alert. Captain Torres, a weathered veteran of the frontier wars, looked at his small crew and grinned. "Well, folks, looks like we're about to give these aliens a proper human welcome." The Dominion fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. War Chief Vex stood on his command bridge, studying the tactical displays. His ships outnumbered the human fleet by massive margins. His weapons were more advanced. His shields were stronger. Victory seemed certain, but as the hours passed, something strange began to happen. Human ships across the solar system were moving, but not in retreat. They were taking positions, forming patterns that made no tactical sense to Dominion military doctrine. Small human vessels were heading directly toward the alien armada, as if they planned to attack with their inferior weapons. "War Chief," reported his tactical officer, "the human fleet is advancing. They appear to be charging our position." Vex's mandibles clicked in what his species considered laughter. "Foolish primates. They think their courage can overcome our technology. Let them come. We will destroy them quickly and move on to their planet." But on Earth, in the deepest military bunkers, ancient systems were awakening. Computers that had been dormant for decades began running calculations. Hidden factories in the asteroid belt started producing materials that had been stockpiled for generations. And across human space, a simple message was being broadcast on all frequencies. Remember the Centauri incident. Remember what we learned. Remember what we built. Today, we show them why humanity earned its place among the stars. The alien armada continued forward, unaware that they were about to encounter something that would change their understanding of warfare forever. They saw only a small, primitive species that had barely learned to travel between planets. They could not see the deeper truth that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they first looked up at the stars. War Chief Vex settled into his command chair, ready to add another victory to the Dominion's long list of conquests. He had no way of knowing that this would be the last world his fleet would ever threaten. The trap was set. The stage was prepared. And humanity was ready to remind the galaxy why even the most advanced civilizations should never underestimate the species that had clawed its way up from the caves of Earth. The trap unfolds. The Dominion fleet moved deeper into the solar system, their sensors scanning for human defensive positions. War Chief Vex expected to find orbital platforms, minefields, or at least a proper battle line. Instead, he found something that puzzled him. Small human ships scattered throughout space, apparently alone and vulnerable. War Chief, his sensor officer reported, the human vessels are not grouping for defense. They maintain individual positions across a wide area. Their behavior does not match any known military doctrine. Vex studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships were old, many of them converted cargo vessels or mining platforms. They showed no signs of advanced weaponry or heavy armor. It seemed like the humans were simply offering their ships as easy targets. Perhaps their species has lost its nerve, suggested Sub-Commander Crix. Many primitive races collapse when faced with superior force. These humans may be surrendering without formal declaration. But Admiral Stone, aboard the Aurora, was watching the alien fleet's approach with satisfaction. The Dominion ships were moving exactly as predicted, following the paths that human strategists had calculated decades ago. Every human vessel was positioned precisely where it needed to be. Lieutenant Blake, Stone said quietly, begin phase 2. Signal all ships to prepare for proximity activation. Blake nodded and sent the coded transmission. Across the solar system, human captains received the message and began final preparations. On the cargo ship Destiny, Captain Wells looked at his small crew with pride. Remember, folks, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world these bastards have destroyed before us. The Dominion fleet reached the outer marker, a point in space that seemed completely empty to their sensors. War Chief Vex ordered his ships to increase speed, eager to finish off the scattered human vessels quickly. That was when the first surprise revealed itself. Cargo ship Destiny suddenly split apart, but not from damage. Its hull sections separated in a controlled sequence, revealing that it had never been a cargo ship at all. Hidden within its civilian appearance was a massive mining laser, designed for cutting through asteroids, but perfectly capable of slicing through alien armor. Captain Wells activated the weapon, and a beam of concentrated energy lanced out across space, striking the lead Dominion cruiser. The alien ship's shields flared and collapsed, and the beam carved a molten channel through its hull. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Impossible, War Chief Vex snarled. That was a civilian vessel. But the surprises were just beginning. Across the battlefield, other cargo ships and mining platforms began revealing their true nature. The merchant vessel Prometheus shed its outer hull to expose banks of missile launchers. The mining station Hercules unfolded massive rail guns that had been disguised as ore processing equipment. Sir, the Dominion tactical officer reported, his voice strained. "We're detecting massive energy signatures from the human vessels. They're not what they appeared to be." Vex watched in growing alarm as his sensors revealed the truth. The humans had turned their entire civilian fleet into a massive deception. Every ship that looked harmless was actually a carefully disguised weapon platform. The scattered formation wasn't random. It was a perfectly planned trap that had lured the Dominion fleet into a crossfire. Admiral Stone spoke into his communication device with calm satisfaction. "All ships, this is Aurora Command. You are free to drop the disguise. Show them what human engineering can really do." The transformation was incredible to watch. Throughout the solar system, human vessels revealed their true forms. What had appeared to be a weak, scattered fleet was actually a carefully coordinated military force. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids now targeted alien hulls. Cargo containers opened to reveal fighter squadrons. Construction platforms unfolded into massive weapons arrays. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The asteroid belt itself began to move. War Chief Vex stared at his displays in horror as rocks that had been motionless for millions of years suddenly showed engine signatures. The humans had not just disguised their ships. They had turned the asteroids themselves into weapons. Entire mountains of rock and metal began accelerating toward the Dominion fleet, driven by hidden engines that had been installed over decades of secret preparation. "How long?" Vex demanded. "How long have they been preparing this?" His intelligence officer worked frantically at his console. "War Chief, based on the scale of construction ... This deception required at least 50 years of preparation. Maybe more." The truth hit Vex like a physical blow. The humans had been planning for this invasion since before the Dominion had even decided to attack Earth. They had spent decades turning their entire solar system into a trap, disguising military installations as civilian infrastructure, preparing for a war that might never come. And now that war was here, and the Dominion fleet was caught in the middle of the most elaborate military deception in galactic history. The real battle was about to begin. Human ingenuity unleashed the Dominion fleet, found itself trapped in a sphere of destruction. What had seemed like empty space was now filled with weapons fire from every direction. The human deception was more complete than War Chief Vex had imagined possible. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. "Damage report." Vex shouted over the sound of alarms filling his bridge. "We've lost 37 ships in the first wave," his tactical officer reported. "The human weapons are more advanced than our intelligence suggested. They're using focused particle beams and kinetic projectiles, accelerated to near light speed." Vex watched in disbelief as another of his heavy cruisers exploded. The humans weren't just using conventional weapons. They were employing tools of industry as instruments of war. Mining lasers that could bore through solid rock were slicing through Dominion armor like paper. Cargo accelerators, designed to launch freight between planets, were now hurling massive projectiles at his fleet. Admiral Stone observed the battle from the Aurora with grim satisfaction. "Lieutenant Blake, begin Phase 3. It's time to show them what we learned from the Centauri incident." Blake's fingers moved across his console, sending another coded signal. Across the solar system, human commanders received the message and began implementing the next stage of their plan. The Centauri incident had happened 40 years ago, when human explorers first encountered evidence of alien technology. They had found the ruins of a civilization that had been destroyed by what appeared to be the same force now attacking Earth. But among the ruins, human scientists had discovered something valuable: detailed records of advanced alien military tactics and technology. For 4 decades, humanity had studied those records. They had learned how the Dominion fought, how their ships were designed, and most importantly, how they could be defeated. Every human weapon system had been designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Dominion technology. Captain Torres, commanding the converted cargo ship Prometheus, watched as his targeting systems locked onto a Dominion battleship. "Fire all missiles," he ordered. "Target their shield generators first, then their engine systems." The missiles streaked through space, each one programmed with decades of research into Dominion defensive systems. They struck the alien battleship with precision, overloading its shields and crippling its engines. The mighty vessel began to drift helplessly through space, but the humans had more surprises in store. From the asteroid belt came a new threat. Rocks that had been carefully shaped and equipped with guidance systems. These weren't just random asteroids being thrown at the enemy. They were precision-guided weapons, each one targeting specific types of Dominion ships. War Chief Vex realized that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that understood his technology better than he did. How is this possible? He demanded. "They're using our own tactical doctrine against us." His intelligence officer had finally discovered the truth. "War Chief, the humans found the ruins of Kepler 442b. They've been studying our military records for decades. They know exactly how we fight." The revelation was devastating. The Dominion had destroyed the Kepler system 40 years ago, never imagining that another species would find the ruins and learn from them. The humans had taken that knowledge and used it to prepare the perfect defense. Captain Reed, commanding the Jupiter mining station, activated his final weapon, a device that had been built into the station's core. "All personnel, prepare for gravitational pulse," he announced. "This is going to be a rough ride." The station's hidden systems activated, creating a localized gravitational distortion. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the nearby Dominion ships. Their hulls, designed for space combat, couldn't withstand the sudden gravitational stress. 3 alien cruisers were crushed like tin cans throughout the solar system. Similar weapons revealed themselves. The humans had spent decades not just studying alien technology, but inventing new ways to use their own industrial infrastructure as weapons. Power plants became directed energy weapons. Communication arrays became electronic warfare systems. Even the orbital elevators on Earth had been converted into massive railguns. Vex found himself commanding a fleet that was being systematically dismantled by what had appeared to be a primitive species. His ships were dying, his weapons were ineffective, and his enemy seemed to anticipate his every move. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving another transmission from the human fleet." Admiral Stone's face appeared on the screen again, but this time his expression was hard and determined. "War Chief Vex, I believe you mentioned something about turning our planet into ash. We thought you should know we've been preparing for visitors like you for a very long time." The transmission ended, leaving Vex to contemplate the impossible truth. The humans hadn't just survived first contact with superior alien technology. They had learned from it, adapted to it, and used it to create the perfect trap, and the trap was still closing. The price of underestimation. The Dominion fleet was in full retreat, but retreat in space was a slow and deadly process. War Chief Vex watched his tactical display with growing horror as his remaining ships tried to escape the human trap. Of his original 1,000 vessels, fewer than 300 remained operational, and even those were taking constant damage from the relentless human attacks. "War Chief," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are maintaining pursuit. They're using small, fast vessels to harass our retreat. Our engines are taking critical damage." Vex studied the display and realized the humans were employing yet another tactic they had learned from the Centauri records. They weren't trying to destroy the retreating fleet immediately. They were crippling it, ensuring that no ship could escape to warn the Dominion homeworlds about what they had discovered here. Admiral Stone coordinated the pursuit from the Aurora. his voice calm and professional as he issued orders. All pursuit squadrons, maintain pressure, but don't get overconfident. These ships are still dangerous when cornered. Captain Wells, now commanding what remained of the Destiny after its transformation, led a squadron of modified fighters in attacking the alien rear guard. Remember your training, people. These ships are designed to fight in formation. Separate them, isolate them, and take them down one at a time. The human fighters moved with precision that surprised even Vex. They weren't just brave. They were skilled, coordinated, and seemed to understand Dominion tactics better than some of his own officers. Every attack was calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in alien ship design. But the most devastating revelation was yet to come. As the Dominion fleet retreated toward the outer solar system, they encountered something that made Vex's blood run cold. Waiting for them at the edge of human space was another fleet, but this one was different. These weren't converted civilian vessels or disguised mining platforms. These were pure military ships, sleek and deadly, incorporating technology that looked disturbingly familiar. They were human ships, but they were built using principles of Dominion engineering. Impossible, Vex whispered, staring at the display. Those designs, they're based on our own technology. His science officer confirmed his worst fears. War Chief, those ships are using modified versions of our own shield generators and weapon systems. The humans have reverse engineered our technology and improved upon it. The new human fleet was commanded by Admiral Chun, a veteran of the early space wars who had spent decades studying alien technology. Her voice came over the communication system, calm and professional. War Chief. Vex, this is Admiral Chun of the Human Defense Fleet. You are surrounded. Your ships are outgunned and outmaneuvered. I'm offering you one chance to surrender. Vex felt something he had never experienced before, fear. Not just fear of death, but fear of what this defeat would mean for the Dominion. The humans had done more than just defend their home system. They had proven that the Dominion could be defeated, that their technology could be matched and surpassed. We are the Dominion, Vex transmitted back. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We do not surrender to primitive species. Admiral Chun's response was immediate and devastating. War Chief, we know exactly how many worlds you've destroyed. We found the records on Kepler 442b. We know about the Vega colony, the Altair settlements, and the Proxima massacre. We know about all of them. The words hit Vex like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just studied Dominion military tactics. They had learned about every atrocity his people had committed. They knew the full scope of Dominion aggression across the galaxy. You made one critical error, Chun continued. You assumed that because we were younger than you, we were weaker. You never considered that we might be smarter, more adaptable, or more determined. You underestimated humanity, and now you're paying the price. The human fleet opened fire, and this time there was no deception, no hidden weapons. It was a direct military engagement between two technologically advanced forces. The difference was that one side had spent decades preparing for this exact fight, while the other had grown complacent from too many easy victories. The battle was swift and decisive. The human ships moved with coordinated precision, their weapons striking with devastating accuracy. The Dominion fleet, already weakened by the earlier fighting, collapsed under the assault. War Chief Vex watched. His flagship systems fail one by one. His weapons were offline, his shields were down, and his engines were dead. Around him, the remnants of his once mighty fleet were being systematically destroyed or captured. Sir, his communications officer reported, Admiral Chun is hailing us again. Vex straightened in his command chair, trying to maintain some dignity in defeat. Put her through. Chun's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious but not cruel. War Chief, your fleet is defeated. I'm offering you the chance to surrender and spare the lives of your remaining crew. What is your decision? For the first time in his military career, War Chief Vex spoke the words he had never imagined saying, I surrender. A new galaxy, the War Crimes Tribunal, convened on Earth 6 months after the defeat of the Dominion fleet. War Chief Vex stood before a panel of human judges, his gray skin pale with exhaustion and defeat. Around him sat the surviving officers of his fleet, all of them prisoners of war being held under human custody. The proceedings were broadcast throughout human space and beyond, as humanity had already begun making contact with other species, who had suffered under Dominion rule. The galaxy was learning that the seemingly invincible conquerors had finally been stopped. Admiral Stone served as the primary witness, his testimony clear and precise. The Dominion fleet arrived with the stated intention of conquering Earth and enslaving its population. They had done this to numerous other worlds, as evidenced by the records we discovered on Kepler 442b. The chief judge, a stern woman named Justice Martinez, reviewed the evidence that had been compiled over decades of investigation. War Chief Vex, you stand accused of crimes against sentient life, including genocide, slavery, and the destruction of inhabited worlds. How do you respond to these charges? Vex stood slowly, his age and defeat showing in every movement. I do not deny what the Dominion has done. For centuries, we believed that might gave us the right to rule over lesser species. We were wrong. His admission sent shockwaves through the assembled observers. Never before had a Dominion leader acknowledged their crimes or shown any sign of remorse. The humans have shown us something we never expected to see, Vex continued. They have proven that intelligence and preparation can overcome raw power. They have demonstrated that a species can be both strong and merciful. They defeated us completely, yet they treat us with more dignity than we ever showed our victims. Justice Martinez nodded gravely. The tribunal will consider your words when determining your sentence. However, the court's primary concern is ensuring that such atrocities never happen again. In the months following the trial, humanity began implementing what became known as the Solar Doctrine. The principle was simple. Any species that threatened peaceful worlds would face the same fate as the Dominion fleet. But more importantly, humanity began sharing their defensive technologies with other species, creating a network of mutual protection throughout the galaxy. Captain Torres, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the first human diplomatic mission to the Vega system, where survivors of the Dominion's earlier attacks had been struggling to rebuild. We're here to help, he told the assembled alien dignitaries. We have medical supplies, construction materials, and defensive technologies. We're also here to learn from you. The response was overwhelming. Species after species joined what became known as the Galactic Defense Alliance. They brought their own technologies, their own knowledge, and their own determination to prevent future genocides. Dr. Sarah Kim, one of the lead researchers who had studied the Centauri ruins, established the Galactic Historical Archive. We must never forget what happened to these worlds, she said at the archive's opening ceremony, not just to honor the dead, but to ensure that future generations understand the price of aggression. The archive became a place of learning and remembrance, visited by representatives from hundreds of species. It contained detailed records of every world the Dominion had destroyed, along with testimonies from survivors and evidence of the atrocities committed. But perhaps the most significant change was in humanity itself. The successful defense of Earth had proven that they were capable of standing among the galaxy's great civilizations. However, rather than becoming conquerors themselves, humans chose to become protectors and teachers. Admiral Chun, now serving as the first human representative to the Galactic Council, addressed the assembly with quiet pride. We learned something important from our encounter with the Dominion. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Technology without compassion leads to atrocity. We offer our strength to the galaxy not as rulers, but as guardians. The Dominion worlds themselves underwent a transformation. With their military leadership captured or dead, the civilian populations were free to choose their own governments. Many of them reached out to the Alliance, seeking to make amends for their species' past crimes. War Chief Vex, serving a life sentence but granted certain privileges for his cooperation, became an unexpected advocate for peace. In his cell, he wrote detailed accounts of Dominion military doctrine, helping the Alliance understand and defend against similar threats. The humans taught us that strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the willingness to protect, he wrote in his final report. We spent centuries proving our power by conquering the weak. They proved their power by defending them. The galaxy had changed. Where once there had been predators and prey, there was now a community of species working together for mutual protection and prosperity. The Dominion's reign of terror had ended not with their destruction, but with their transformation. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the species that had looked at an impossible threat and simply smiled, knowing that intelligence, preparation, and determination could overcome any challenge the universe might present. The stars belonged to all who reached for them in peace. Asterisk.